Here we go. We have the last chapter of Divrei Hayamim Aleph, which makes me a little sad because that means that we have only one more book to study together. But let's do it. So this is Divrei Hayamim. Of course, talked about how it's a very different David who is in this book. It's a David who builds the Beit HaMikdash, much more spiritual, much more connected with God, and not so much, not that he's not in the book of Shmuel, but much more connected with God and much more about his building of the Beit HaMikdash and that, and not a political leader. Vayomer David Amel Cholakal Shlomo v'ni echad bachar bo Elohim na'ar barach b'amlacha gedola ki lo la'adam abira ki la'Adonai Elohim. God, David says to the entire assembly, God has chosen my son Shlomo alone, a young lad, and the work that he has to do is vast. The temple is not for a man, but the temple is for God. Tichol kochi hachinoti lebeit Elohai hazahav lezahav v'hakesef lakesef v'hachoshen l'choshen habarzel l'barzel l'aitzim l'aitzim avnei shoham u'miluim avnei puch v'rikma v'chol even yikara avnei shayish l'rov. And I prepared everything: the gold and the silver, the copper, the iron, the stones, all of the different color and precious stones and marbles. For od birtzoti b'beit Elohai yesh li skula zahav v'chesef natati lebeit Elohai l'mala mikol achinoti lebeit hakodesh. Besides, out of my will and my desire for the house of God, I gave over my gold, my private gold and silver to the house of God, in addition to all that was collected publicly and all that was collected from our wars, etc. 3,000 kikar zahav mizahav ofir v'shivat alafim kikar kesef mizukak latuach kirot habatim. 3,000 gold talents of ophir gold, 7,000 talents of refined silver for covering the walls of the house. We have gold for the gold object, silver for the silver object, and the craftsmen already have them. Who is going to make a further offering and devote themselves today, whether it be as a craftsman, whether he's asking for more gold or more silver or more whatever it might be? And we're told in verse 6, and the officers and the clans of the officers, the tribes of Israel, and the captains of the thousands and the hundreds, and the supervisors of the king's work made offerings. And they gave for the house of God 5,000 talents of gold, 10,000 darricks, 10,000 talents of silver, 18,000 copper, 100,000 talents of iron. What we see here is David says, I'm doing it, but everybody's coming along. It's a little different than the Mishkan. The Mishkan, Moshe is told to ask the people, Kol Nedivlev, and the people just give and give and give. And we're not really told about Moshe giving anything. This is a bigger project. It's a different structure for Bnei Israel. And therefore, the person who really starts it is David, and he collects lots of stuff that he collects. And then after that, the people give as well. Banim Saito, Abanim Nulatar, Beit Adonai, Agad, Yechiel, Hagir Shuni. Whoever had stones in their possessions gave them to the treasury of the house of God, which was overseen by Yechiel, the Gershonite. There was no buyer's remorse. The people were joyous. They were overjoyed. They were happy that they could make these offerings. They had a full heart that they could do these things, and King David was happy as well. And this is a great moment. Sometimes you have buyer's remorse. I gave that donation. Why did I give that donation? Those people, that cause, it's not good. That's not what it is here at all. And then we see David continue in verse 10. And David said in front of all of the congregation, blessed is God, the God of Israel, from this world to the next world. And we see this regularly in the Siddur, regularly a part of Psuke Zimra. And he continues, we know these verses. You, God, our greatness, might, splendor, triumph, majesty, the heaven, everything is yours in the heaven, and everything is yours on the earth. You are above everything. Riches and honors are yours to dispense. You have dominion over everything. You are might. You are strength. You are power. Anybody with strength and power, it's all coming from you. Now, God, we praise you we praise and we sing out the praise of your name. And now David has a moment of humility, and David is a person of great belief in the self, but he also has moments of humility. He understands that so much of he has comes from God, and thus he says, and I think it's sincere, who am I and who are our people, my people, that we should be able to make such an offering to you, because everything comes from you. It's a gift from you that we have been given these things. For we are just sojourners and transients, like our fathers. Our days in the earth are like nothing. They're like a shadow with nothing in prospect. And here we see a couple of things interesting. This phrase, Gerim v'toshavim, echoes Avraham Avinu at the time of the purchase of the Ma'arat HaMachpelah in Hebron. He says, Ger v'toshav anochi imachem. I'm just a sojourner. I'm just a transient. I'm a foreigner, but let me buy this land. Let me have this place that I know is mine for my family. And David, we know, did that as well in this book. David went and he bought the plot of Arnon HaYevusi. Arnon said, you can have it. You're the king. You could do what you want. But David said, no, I'm going to buy it. And we talked about that and the way it connected with Abraham in that sense and some of the same language. And here we see this language as well. And we see also some more like Tehillim type language, right? Kitsel Yomenu ala aretz. So we're just a shadow. Ein mikveh, there's no hope for us. We are only living here for a small amount of time. But yet, God, you are giving us the ability to do something eternal. And that's what we want in life for all of us. I'm not saying that we ought to be David HaMelech, but we all want to be part of something that is eternal. The Jewish people, our mission, our hope, our desire, whatever it might be. We all want to be part of something greater, and that's what David is saying here. And he continues in Pasuk Tet Zayin, verse 16. Adonai Eloheinu kol ha'amon hazeh asher achinotam livnot lacha bayit l'shem chachecha miyadcha hu l'cha kol. God, all this great mass, all the gold and the silver that we have assembled, it's from you. It's from your holy name. It's all yours. Not because we gave it to you, but because you gave it to us and we gave it back to you. V'yadati Elohai ki ata bochein lavavu meisharim tirtzeh ani v'yosher levavi na'aftei chol eila v'ata imcha hanimsu plo ra'iti b'simcha litnadev lach. And I know, God, that you look into the heart and you desire uprightness. And we saw this when David was first anointed as king. And the oldest son came, Eliab, and Shmuel Hanavi saw him. If I'm getting the name of the right son, I think it's Eliab. And he came, and Shmuel Hanavi saw him and says, "Oh, that must be king. Look at that beautiful guy." And God says to Shmuel Hanavi, "Man looks at the face, looks on the externals. I look at the heart." And David's talking about his upright heart. I did this with my heart. I did this with my emotion, freely offering, and all the people here as well gave these things freely and joyously. Adonai Elohei Abraham Yitzchak Yisrael Avotenu Shemrazot Olam Neitzer Machshvot Levav Amecha V'chein Levavam Elecha. The God of Abraham, of Yitzchak and Yisrael, our fathers, remember this to the eternal credit of thoughts of your people. Make their hearts constant towards you. Right? And this is something that we say regularly as well in later on in the or say earlier on in the Tefillot from Psukim Zimra, right before the V'hurachum, I believe. Early on, Ulishlomo B'ni, and now he turns to his son Shlomo. Tain, Lavav, Shalem, Lishmor Mitzvotech, Edotech, Lasod Hakol, Livnot Habira, Asher Hachinotians. To my son Shlomo, give him a whole heart to observe your commandments, your laws, your demands, to fulfill them all, and to build this temple which I have made provisions. I have prepared for him, and that's what Shlomo says. David asked God to help Shlomo in the process. Vayamru David l'chol hakal. Barchuna et Adonai Elohechem, v'yivarchu kol hakal Adonai Elohei avotehem, v'yiktu v'yishtachavu l'Adonai v'lamelech. David gets the whole congregation together and says, "Now bless God," and everybody together blesses God, and they bow their heads low to the king. V'yizbachu l'Adonai zvachim v'yalu alot l'Adonai l'machrat hayom hahu harim elef elim elef fatim elef v'nizkayim l'zikayim l'rov l'kol Yisrael. They offered sacrifices to God, burnt offerings. On the next day, 1,000 bulls, 1,000 rams, 1,000 lambs with their libations. They made sacrifices in great number for all of Israel. And this is very interesting because Shlomo, we say, Ha'elef l'cha Shlomo. Shlomo brought 1,000 sacrifices every day. And when we talk about Shlomo, we talk about Shlomo's excess. Did Shlomo do too much? And that's Shlomo's problem. I like to say he didn't want to be a king. He wanted to be an emperor. And everything with him was great, was big. But here we see, and maybe this is just the one time with David where he brought the 1,000, or they're talking is bringing the 1,000, but it gives maybe a little clue as to why Shlomo brought these 1,000 as well. And so this is excess, but maybe that was one day of excess for David. Vayochlu, in verse 22, Pasuk Chabet, Vayishtu lifnei Adonai bayom hahu b'simcha gdola v'hem lichlu sheinit l'Shlomo ben David v'hem shechlu la'Adonai v'nagidu l'tzadoch hakohen. They ate and drank in the presence of God on that great day. They proclaimed Shlomo, son of David, king, and they anointed him as ruler before God and before Tzadok, the high priest. Vayeshev Shlomo al kisei Adonai l'melech tachat David aviv vaytzlach v'yishmu elav kol Yisrael. Shlomo successfully took the throne in the place of his father, and everything was great in all of Israel except him. And everybody supported King Shlomo. Vayagdel Adonai Shlomo l'mala le'nei kol Yisrael. Vaytein alav hod malchut asher lo haya al kol melech l'fanav ha'Yisrael. And God made Shlomo exceedingly great in the eyes of all of Israel, and gave him this regality, this majestic air that no king in Israel before him ever had, even David. What's interesting here, what's fascinating here is, and we talked about how this is very, very different than the book of Shmuel. David is not the constructor or the preparer of the Mishkan. We don't have any of this. We don't have Adoniyahu proclaiming himself as king. This is a smooth transition, a very, very different history. Absent those things, absent the fighting of the house of David, the family of David. And remember, Second Temple period, fledgling. Things aren't perfect, and we want people to feel great about their empire. We want people to know that this will succeed. The importance of the Davidic dynasty, the importance of the Beit HaMikdash, the importance of Kohanim. So it's smooth sailing. That's the history that they are teaching, whether it's true or not. The David ben Yishai Malach al Kol Yisrael. David, son of Jesse, reigned over all of Israel. Vayamim asher Malach Yisrael 40 shana, b'Hebron Malach 7 shanim, Yerushalayim Malach 30 v'shalosh. We're told this is back in the book of Shmuel. All the way back, David reigns 40 years, 7 in Hebron, 33 in Jerusalem. Vayamat b'seiva tova, vayamim osher v'chavod vayimloch Shlomo b'no tachtav. He died at a ripe old age, a long life, wealthy, with honor, and his son Shlomo reigned in his stead. But Divrei David HaMelech Rishonim, v'achronim hinam ketuvim al Divrei Shmuel HaRoev, v'al Divrei Natan HaNavi, v'al Divrei Gad HaChozeh. And everything that David did was written in the books by Shmuel, the seer, and Nathan, the prophet, and God also is described as a seer with a different word, chozeh versus a roeh, two different types of seers. And we know that Shmuel writes the book of Shmuel. He dies in the middle of the book of Shmuel. He dies towards the end of the first book of Shmuel, so he's not there for the second book of Shmuel. So the understanding is it was finished by the two Nevi'im we see later, Natan and God. And here we have the last verse of Divrei Hayamim Aleph, in Kol Malchuto Gvurato, Vaytim Asher Avru Alav, V'al Yisrael, V'al Kol Mamlachot Haaretz, together with all the mighty deeds of his kingship and events that befell him and Israel and all the kingdoms of the earth. So we have a real description of everything great that was accomplished by David. Again, a very different David than the David of Shmuel. He's a great man in Shmuel, but there he's much more of a warrior king, governmental. He brings Bnei Yisrael together, and there we see him with his warts, with his family problems, with his issues. Not in this book. This book, leave those things out. There's no Adoniah who proclaims himself as king. There's no Bathsheba. Here, he is a great religious figure who is leading Bnei Yisrael. And it's a very different book. So we say here, Chazak v'Chazak v'nit chasei. We've completed the book of Divrei Hayamim Aleph, and sadly but joyously, we are on, starting tomorrow, to the last book in the Tanakh.